We'll get more to the center. We'll move back. Good evening. I'm Pedro Hazel Jr.
I'm Steve Ferguson.
And welcome to another edition of Sportslines Plus. Tonight we'll be discussing the NFL draft for the Jets and Giants. And after that, we'll be discussing the Knicks in their first playoff game against the 76ers. If you like what we see, press the subscribe button. The NFL draft will be held on Thursday in Detroit. All the NFL teams will be drafting players who will help improve their teams this fall. The New York Jets are drafting 10th, 72nd, 111th, 134th, 185th, and 256th and 257th. The two very last picks of the draft. Steve, Who do you think the Jets should draft?
This is a really good question because at the Jets, with their record of 7-10 last year, they are very close to being a playoff-bound team, even though a lot of Jet fans, including myself, are wondering when that's going to happen. But I will say this. If you remember 2 years ago when the Jets really needed help in the secondary, they drafted Sauce Gardner. And he has been probably the closest thing we've had to Darrelle Revis, who we know is a Hall of Fame talent. Now the Jets are at the point where they need a dynamic player to help Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old coming into the season. We all know the serious injury he had with his Achilles tendon. But the player I think can really help them, the Jets, would be Brock Bowers, the tight end from Georgia. This is a guy that a lot of people in the NFL think will be kind of along the lines of a Travis Kelce, George Kittle, a superstar tight end who can catch the ball. They can throw to him deep. He can even play running back on some of their plays. But they need a dynamic offensive player. What they do have, they got Mike Williams in the offseason from the Chargers, very talented wide receiver who can go deep. He, too, has had Achilles tendon problems. We have Garrett Wilson. That was a great pick by the Jets 2 years ago, the same time they got Sauce Gardner. Now you add Brock Bowers, Mike Williams, and Garrett Wilson, along with Breece Hall to the offense, and I'll bet the Jets will score a lot more points than they've been scoring the last few years. They're one of the worst offenses in football. I believe they were 31st in offense. So anybody 31st. They can get. Yes, were awful on offense. A great defensive team, the Jets. If you're going to talk about defense wins games, yes, the Jets have it. But now they need to do the same with their offense. But I think Brock Bowers would be the first player I would draft. It's a risk at number 10. There are teams that are interested in him, Denver being one of them. But I think the Jets need to hit a home run at number 10. And this is the guy that I think they should get.
Who do you think besides him, who do you think they should also draft?
You know, I haven't really thought of all the other things they should draft, but thinking about what the Jets are, I think they need to draft as many good offensive players as they can. I think their defense overall is very good. I do think they could use a pass rusher who can get to the quarterback. That's one thing the Jets have not had. Carl Lawson, unfortunately, had injuries while we had him, and he was a very good guy going after the quarterback, but they need somebody dynamic off this draft that they can get, even if he comes in on certain downs, maybe on 3rd down and 20, where you know the quarterback has to throw. Maybe he doesn't start for the Jets, but comes off the bench as one of your defenders. But I think overall the Jets really need to beef up the offense as much as they can. The offensive line, they've done an excellent job with that. They acquired 3 players in the offseason, one of them who used to actually play for the Jets. They got him back from the Ravens. A guy named Moses, his last name is, very good offensive lineman. You add that to Vera Tucker, who got hurt later in the year, who is an excellent offensive lineman. I think the Jets could also go for an offensive tackle as a backup, a guy who can play, if you will, the swing tackle role. There have been rumors that they might be interested in John Alt out of Notre Dame at number 10. I personally think they have enough on the offensive line now. They don't have to draft this high for an offensive lineman. But I think they can certainly use a couple more receivers, maybe a really good running back to back up Breece Hall, and beef up everything they have offensively, because we know football injuries happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I like their defense. They're ready to play defensively against anybody in the league with their talent. But now if they get the offense straightened out, that's when they'll make the playoffs.
Okay. Well, that sounds interesting. Now, you said they don't really need a lot of they need a lot of offense. You don't basically they don't need a lot of defense.
No. Their defense is
pretty
really good and solid. And
not even cornerback.
I think that you would have said 2 years ago they could have definitely used a corner, but when they got Sauce Gardner and Reed, I don't remember his first name, but they solidified their defense on the corners very much, very high and very good. And these guys are very tough covers, but I think they need the pass rusher. That's what they're missing. They need a guy who can get after the quarterback and get maybe 7-8 sacks, maybe by the middle of the season. Somebody who doesn't have to start, but can come in on certain downs and pressure the quarterback even more than the corners they have. But I think that's one thing they could use on defense. But there's not much they need defensively. They're really solid on the defensive end. I think they last year were number 4 in defense.
That's great.
So they're very solid on the defensive end. It's the offense that really did them in last year.
Wow.
But we know one thing: we won't be seeing Zach Wilson starting next year, and whether they can get rid of him or not is another story.
Yeah.
But we are assuming that Aaron Rodgers will be there, and also for Jet fans, we have a good backup for the first time in God knows how long. That's Tyrod Taylor. Thank you, Giants, for allowing us to get him. I have always said that Tyrod Taylor should be a starter in the NFL, and he was with the Bills. Ironically, when he was with the Giants, they didn't give him a chance to start. They started the other player, the third stringer,
Tommy DeVito.
Oh, man. And Tommy DeVito has some talent, but there were games the Giants could have definitely won, perhaps if they played Tyrod Taylor. The Jets are very fortunate for the first time in years to really have a backup that you can say could start if anything happens to Aaron Rodgers. This guy has the ability to throw and throw deep, and he's accurate and sharp. He gets injured a lot. That's his one weakness. But if we have him as our backup, and Aaron Rodgers is what Aaron Rodgers has been for years, finally the Jets will have solidified the quarterback spot.
Good. Now, as for the Giants, speaking of the Giants, the New York Giants are drafting 6th, 47th, 70th, 107th, 166th, and 183rd. The $95,000 question. Who should they concentrate on first?
Well, I'll tell you what, and I thought about the Giants today.
Since they have so many things after a 7-10 season.
Remember the Andy Williams song where he says, "Where do I begin?" That's what I would say with the Giants. Where do you start? Because your team needs almost everything. But I will say one thing they really need more than anything, a new offensive line. And I think they have 7 picks. Why not use 4 or 5 of them? First guy I would draft is
actually 6.
First guy I would draft is Joe Alt of Notre Dame. He's a can't miss. They really need help on the offensive line. Giant fans have been waiting probably 15, 20 years for this line to get straightened out. They have other guys that they can also draft as well. They have Devon Cohen. They have Austin Turner, Jeremy Flax. All of these guys, Cameron Jones, all these guys are offensive linemen. If I'm the Giants, as bad as my offensive line has been for years, why not draft 5 of these guys? Take a chance. Remember, Dallas did this years ago. They cleaned out their whole offensive line, and people thought Jerry Jones was out of his mind to do it. Well, they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, but they're a whole lot better after he did that. I think that the Giants should actually, for the first time, just say, the offensive line is a total mess. Let's get 3 or 4 of these guys or 5 of them. Maybe they go and get a very good wide receiver, maybe Malik Neighbors from LSU. They really need him because Sterling Shepard is now retired. And your guy, that tight end, that Darren Waller, he may retire.
Mm-hmm.
So they need receivers. And I think they need a great running back out of that draft.
Mm-hmm.
They do not have Saquon Barkley anymore. I understand they have a guy named Singletary who used to play for the Bills. He's a good running back, but he's not a star. Mm-hmm. They need to find somebody in that draft, even if it's on the 5th, 6th round, who can be a star. But I would say if they get nothing else, get the offensive line straightened out. Keep Daniel Jones upright. This guy has been under siege every year as a Giant quarterback, except for the year that they made the playoffs and they were 9-7.
Yeah, when he got that big contract and didn't do squat.
Which I personally would never have given him. I don't think he's worth it. And he was drafted number 6, and that was a huge mistake by the Giants.
I remember when we did on the Sportsline show and they drafted him number 6. I know you were like, drafted Daniel Jones. It was like, Daniel Jones?
Like, who is this?
Yeah.
This guy was drafted number 6, if you remember years ago, Giant fans. I'm sure you do. But he was never this good. You're talking about a guy that probably should have been a 4th round draft pick, not drafted number 6. So you have to blame
as your franchise quarterback.
Yeah. You have to blame the previous GM, Dave Gettleman, because that really set the Giants back a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the best thing you can do for him, I think, is get him a new offensive line. Let him have time to throw the ball accurately. His assets are his speed, his ability to run out of the pocket and throw. Let him have time to do that. Then the Giants at least would have a chance to get better.
Mm-hmm.
They do need a little more help defensively. I think Kayvon Thibodeau, who came on the second half of last year, is proving to be a decent pass rusher. They can use another one. They have 2 good defensive players right now on that line. They could use a couple more. But we can't do everything in one draft.
Yeah, unfortunately.
They may have to go on the free agent market to get some help.
Yeah.
That's what the Jets have done. The Jets got 3 offensive linemen out of the free agent market.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Giants need to start spending some money to get some of their needs taken care of. The draft isn't going to solve them all.
Yeah. And now, speaking of the Jets, I know they traded a lot of different players, and a lot of their picks went to the Ravens. Since you mentioned they got that fellow from the Ravens.
Yeah, I think his last name is Moses. I'm sorry, I don't remember his first name offhand, but we had him years ago, and he played on the line. Now he's a veteran guy. That's the only weakness they have. That's why swing tackle, maybe both teams could use someone like that, because what the Jets have, they have 3 veteran guys who are good offensive linemen, but they're on the other side of 30. And they might want to get somebody younger who can play a couple of those positions in case any of these guys get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But the 5 guys they have right now are very good offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. They can keep them healthy and keep Aaron Rodgers off the ground. The Jets might be as good as we've seen them in a long time.
Mm.
I'm talking like years ago when they made the playoffs.
It's been what is this 11 years since they last made the playoffs?
You know what? This was last year number 14.
So that's why 2011 was. Oh my God!
I mean, we're talking about over a decade. You and I went to one of those playoff games back in 2000. Mm. There aren't many times that the New York Jets get there. So I remember one year they were 10-2. And I believe it was 2015, 10-2. All they had to do was win one more game, and they couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. They lost every game, and they wound up out of the playoffs at 10-6. That was one of the most heartbreaking years for me as a Jet fan.
Mm-hmm.
I remember looking at my television. I couldn't move from my set for half an hour. I was in shock.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost to the Patriots. It was the last day of the season, and they had a chance to win the game, but they just didn't have the wide receivers who were smart enough to pick up what to do in that spot. So as a Jet fan, we've all of us who are long-suffering Jet fans, please get the offensive line straightened out. Now we have talent to work with. Now we have the quarterback. There are no more excuses for Robert Saleh. to me, this is the year they have to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, he should be out the door as well as Joe Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have been waiting for 3 years, going on 4, for this to happen. And Salah has a record well under 500. And we thought he was going to be the answer as the head coach. And so far, he has not been. So I'm telling you right now, Joe Douglas, you better go and get me everybody you can get on the offense to get this team into the postseason. Because defensively, we are ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's the offense that we've got to turn around, and quick.
Yeah.
Because we're in a tough division. Miami is a really good offensive team. Buffalo is still a very good team, even though they recently lost their wide receiver and was traded to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Their star wide receiver, Diggs. But the Jets right now look like they would finish third behind those two.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really going to have to play well to make the postseason.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking
at least
10,
the
11
Jets
wins.
At least the Jets don't have to worry about Belichick and the Patriots
That's
anymore.
the one good thing they have. They don't have to worry about him anymore, being the shadow crossing over them. But we're looking at a team right now that I think will finish third in the division.
Yeah.
The Jets. And I think third, they're going to have to win at least 10 games to get there.
Yeah.
No more 9 games. 8 games isn't going to cut it.
Mm-hmm.
They have to win. They have to be 10-6.
Or 10-7.
Or 10-7, because otherwise they're going to fail once again. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you right now, Robert Saleh's neck is on the chopping block for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
You get it done this year, I'll leave you alone. But this is the year you better come through for us.
That's right. Now to the Knicks and the NBA playoffs. The Knicks played the Philadelphia 76ers at Madison Square Garden tonight and won 111-104 in a hard-fought game.
Oh, yeah.
A very hard-fought game. Now, the Knicks bench, it was like everything was like, it was drama. Everybody. Embiid was there.
Yep.
And, even he did his thing.
He did
his thing. Then it was like everybody, the Knicks contributed. The bench players contributed to everything.
Bench players on the New York Knicks did an incredibly good job. Yeah. They outscored the Philadelphia Sixers 42-7 off the bench. The rebounding of the Knicks was incredible. 55 rebounds to 35 for Philadelphia. Ooh. That's how the Knicks won the game. I've said to my buddy here, the New York Knicks right now are the most resilient team I have ever seen of the New York Knicks. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking when they won their championships. This is a team that may not have everything they need to win a championship, but damn it, they're going to work their tails off to get
They have heart.
And they certainly do have heart.
And speaking of such, he got like 13 points in the last quarter.
This guy, let me tell you,
Josh
Hart is a terrific player. He may not be an all-star, but this guy does everything you need in a clutch situation. 4 3-pointers in the clutch against a tough Philadelphia team. This guy rebounds. He'll block shots. He'll get steals. He's a complete player. He does everything you need on the court. But today, although I give him credit because he was a big part of the game, we have to give credit to Miles McBride.
Oh, yeah.
This guy, who is Jalen Brunson's backup, has risen. I mean, that's part of the reason we don't have Quigley anymore.
Yeah.
He is a superb defender. His shooting has been incredible this season. He used to be an average shooter, pretty good defender. I'll tell you right now, if we didn't have Jalen Brunson, he'd be the starting point guard.
Yeah.
He has been terrific. And today, he was excellent. I believe he had 29 points today. Mm. He was superb. And everybody contributed. That's what I like about it.
Everybody played a part.
Robinson, who is a horrible foul shooter, 40% foul shooter for the season. Let me tell you what he did. At the foul line in a tight game, he hit 2 free throws in a row. He had 12 rebounds. He only had 8 points. But the job he did on Joel Embiid, the hustle and the hits that he took physically, because Joel Embiid is a dude. He is a big guy.
Oh, yeah.
And my man Robinson played his heart out on defense. All of them did. Hartenstein, Achua. This team, the New York Knicks, play like a great team. They're the team. They're the essence of what you talk about when they say my team is a sum of its parts.
Yeah.
That's what the Knicks are. Brunson did not have a particularly good game shooting, but the guys around him, all of them stepped up today for him.
Yes, they did.
And that's how the Knicks do it.
Josh Hart led the Knicks in points with 22 points, 5 for 12 field goals, 8 for 10 free throws.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Maxey led the Sixers in points.
He is a star. I mean, yeah.
Tyrese Maxey
is going to be a headache for the Knicks through the whole series. He has incredible speed. He's a gutsy player in the clutch. He hits the jumpers. He goes to the basket. He passes, and he plays with a lot of energy.
Embiid, by the way, had 29 points.
Yes, and Joel Embiid, considering he's playing basically on one leg, and can't run as well as he normally does, and can't challenge shots as well as he normally does, is still a headache for any team.
Of course.
Because his ability to score and rebound and his relentless effort is why the Sixers are this good.
Kyle Lowry had 18 points.
Kyle Lowry is a Hall of Famer. I'll just say that right now. He came off the bench today down the stretch. When the Knicks were battling, he came right off the bench, bang, hit a 3-point shot. Yeah. He's always been a clutch player.
Right. By the way, besides Josh Hart, he and Jalen Brunson were tied for the most points for the Knicks with 22 each.
Wow.
McBride had 21.
21, okay.
Bogdanovich had 13 points.
See, the Knicks bench is the reason why they won this game.
Yeah.
This bench that the Knicks have, when they all play well, when they get contributions from Bogdanovich and Burks and McBride and guys like that, I think the Knicks are as good as any team in the Eastern Conference, short of maybe Boston. This is a very talented team, but I think what they have is the will to win that very few teams have. Mm-hmm. This team never gives up in a game.
No.
They battle you. They work hard. They're tough. They're a New York team to the core.
Yeah. And they go ahead.
Go ahead. And the thing about the Knicks is, when people have asked me, do I think they can go to the Eastern Conference Finals? I would tell you, talent-wise, maybe not, but heart and energy and playing as a team and as a unit, yes.
Robinson had 12 rebounds tonight.
He had a great game.
And Hart had 13. Again, Josh Hart, 13 rebounds.
See, Robinson will never score more than maybe 10 points a game for you. Mm-hmm. But what he does is he plays these tough offensive centers. And Embiid is definitely one of the best outside of Jokic, who plays for Denver. That's why when we need clutch defense against a good center, you can put either Hartenstein or Robinson out there on the court and they will play. The Knicks have the personality in so many ways of Tom Thibodeau. Mm-hmm. He's a gutsy, gritty coach. And there are a lot of people who don't like Tom Thibodeau because they say he focuses too much on defense. He wears his players out. Well, I'll tell you what, when they were missing 6 players this year with injuries, that team rose. This team kept fighting. That's why they're number 2 in the Eastern Conference. They wanted to do it.
And Julius Randle is out with the shoulder injury. Right. That gave him even more incentive.
Yes.
I think so.
They have an intensity about them that I've not seen from the New York Knicks probably since the 90s on defense. Mm. I mean, they had a different team then. They had Ewing and they had Starks and they had Mason and guys like that. But this team has a similar feel to it.
Yes,
like they're gutsy. They're
reminds me of those teams. Fight. Yeah.
And New Yorkers like me and my buddy here, we love the New York Knicks because they embody what New York is. New York is a tough city. It is a gritty city. It's a demanding city. But this team plays like they want to be good for them. Mm. They play as a unit.
Yes.
There's no selfishness on this team that I can see.
Yeah.
They don't care if Brunson is the leading scorer or Hart or Bogdanovich or DiVincenzo. This team wants to win games.
Yes.
And that's what I like about them. They are unselfish and they are to the core and they know what they want to do.
Yes,
And
indeed.
their intensity is absolutely amazing.
I know. I mean, this is going to be, even with the first game, this is going to be a hard fought series. I think it may even go 7.
I think it will go either 6 or 7.
6 or 7.
I think the Sixer team knows the Knicks have weaknesses. They know Brunson, they started double teaming him today, even triple teaming him. So the Knicks have to continue to find the outlets when they're open.
Oh, yes.
And they have to get scoring from Hartenstein, McBride, Achua. All these guys have to keep contributing so that the Sixers can back off a little bit on Brunson. Brunson has been as good as any point guard in the league this year. But teams are now thinking we have to double this guy.
Yes.
We have to make other people on the New York Knicks beat them.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Knicks are going to keep doing what they're doing. They're going to pass, and they're going to try to block shots and rebound and get the ball. And then if he's open, Brunson's open, he'll get it. But if he's not, Brunson's a smart enough guy and very knowledgeable about what to do when double teams come. That ball will get whipped around the perimeter, and somebody who's open will be getting it.
Okay. Great show we had tonight.
Yes, I thought so.
Before we say goodbye, let's give a shout out to Jay Kaplan, Steve Rabinowitz, and Anthony Strait for the job they do and have done for the On the Sportsline show. Also, catch their show when you get a chance.
Thanks, guys.
For Steve Ferguson, I'm Pedro Hazel Jr. saying good night and see you in 2 weekends. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. Enjoy the NBA playoffs and the NFL draft.
Yes, enjoy both. Good night, guys.